Hey everybody, we're live, and I'm going to have more updates to this story as it unfolds. But the initial story, as much as yesterday, was that John Harbaugh, formerly the coach of the Baltimore Ravens, had visited New York, but formerly the coach of the Baltimore Ravens had visited New York and then left New York without a deal. I repeat, he visited New York and then left New York, excuse me, the Giants' offices without a deal to become their next head coach. Now, per Adam Schefter on ESPN, about 30 minutes ago, the situation's changed. He reports that the two parties, Coach Harbaugh and the New York Giants brass, are trying to, or rather, not trying to, they are finalizing a deal for him to become the New York Giants' next head coach. So let's go with that. And let's ask the question, first of all, what kind of coach will John Harbaugh be for the Giants? What does he bring to the table? And anyone watching the Ravens contests over the years knows that the answer to that question is what he brings to the table is combining a hard-nosed power running game with with downfield passing. And he yet having done all of that, he's also known for bringing in players that are playmakers and then fitting his system to the players. That's how he can go out and aggressively get Lamar Jackson, fit the Ravens system to what Lamar Jackson does, but at the same time teach Lamar Jackson to become a better passer and ultimately one of the best passers in the NFL. Then he brings in Derrick Henry to give them the power running game they lacked. And but for a Mark Andrews drop on a 4th and 2, the Baltimore Ravens may have been in the Super Bowl and not the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Of course, this year we saw what happened to the Chiefs. The league caught up to how they run their offense. Their defense wasn't the same as it had been in the past. And eventually, they didn't even make the playoffs, let alone come close to winning the AFC West. The Baltimore Ravens situation was entirely different. The Ravens suffered from a rash of injuries over a long course of the season and some untimely losses. And yet, they met when Lamar returned to play and start for the organization. The man, twice voted NFL MVP, looked like he was going to score yet a third NFL MVP for what he was doing in bringing the Ravens to the point of going to the playoffs. Unfortunately, because the Ravens missed a field goal kick, that didn't happen. Then, shockingly to everybody, Harbaugh was fired. Of course, now Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti says, well, he was going to fire John Harbaugh the next week if he had made the field goal and they made the playoffs. I don't believe that, but that's another story for another time. The situation right now is that the Giants are without a head coach. They are set to bring in John Harbaugh. So the question is, what will Harbaugh bring to the Giants? My answer is simply star players. I believe John Harbaugh is going to make a play for Derrick Henry, who's currently the star running back for the Baltimore Ravens. Will Baltimore pay enough to keep him? We'll have to see. But that will be a quick answer to a Giants running game that has been, at best, anemic and at worst, non existent. Then Harbaugh will continue the training of Jackson Dart, but I believe there is a possibility that under Harbaugh's love for the deep pass, Jameis Winston may wind up seeing some reps, if not starting, depending on how training camp comes out. We'll have to see. But this does point to a Giants team that, above all else, will also have a strong defense. And the Giants already have drafted a quarterback. They did draft for Abdul Carter, but he hasn't been exactly the player that others thought he would be. They didn't ask me, of course. He's not a Lawrence Taylor. The Giants need a defensive lineman, that can really come in, rush the passer, but at the same time plug up the holes in the running game. And there are at least two different defenders I can think of, but I'll talk about that at another time, who can come in and be that kind of player as a rookie for the Giants. But John Harbaugh does his damage through free agency, and he will get players from other teams to come to New York at a rate that they've never come to play for any other coach in quite some time. So there you are, folks. John Harbaugh, and I'll put this picture up here so you can see it. John Harbaugh there is set to become the head coach of the New York Football Giants. And let's think about who his rivals are now. The Dallas Cowboys, most notably, Cowboys Giants. The Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts. The Washington Commanders with Jay Daniels, who are also in search of a new offensive coordinator to replace the high-flying but shockingly ineffective passing game that Cliff Kingsbury installed there. So it's a season of flux, lots of changes, but John Harbaugh brings stability wherever he goes. That's what he'll bring to New York. More later. Love to know your reaction on this. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark NFL News by Zenny62.com. That ends the stream.